Hey guys, it's Omer from MMOs.com. Another quick weekly news recap of all major MMO news and announcements beginning January 21st, 2019. This is episode number 183 of the recap, and the first bit of news this week comes from COG Games regarding Kurtzpel, the gorgeous upcoming anime action MMO. While we still don't have any kind of definitive release date for it, the game has a Steam page now, and it's launching sometime in early access sometime in Q1 of 2019, which means it'll be playable in the next 3 months. And like COG's other titles like Elsword and Grand Chase, Kurtzpel will be heavily instanced and will feature both PvE and PvP elements. And from the looks of it, I expect something a bit like Critica or Soulworker, which means it'll be largely linear-based progression with stages. And while I don't think Kurtzpel will be some kind of a huge game, I do love the game's bright anime aesthetic and I'm looking forward to giving it a try. At least we know that it's coming soon. Next up, Bethesda and ZeniMax officially confirmed the latest Elder Scrolls Online expansion, and as speculated before, it'll introduce a new area of Elsweyr, the home of the Khajiit, and also introduce a new Necromancer class to the game. Other goodies include a new 12-man dragon-focused trial, new dungeons, PvP changes, tons of new side quests, new gear, all that good stuff and more. Now, Elsweyr is currently scheduled to launch on June 4th and is available for pre-order right now, and pre-ordering grants players a head start access to the game, which begins on May 20th. Between now and Elsweyr's release, we can also look forward to the Wrathstone DLC, which launches in February. Now, Elder Scrolls Online remains one of the most popular Western-developed MMORPGs out there. If you've never played it, it's definitely worth trying. The game is buy to play though, meaning you pay once and you can play forever. However, you do have to buy new DLCs as well as expansions, and there's an optional subscription as well. Next up, a big update for MapleStory 2 on the development side of things. The game's developers announced a 3-month-long project where they'll be actively soliciting player feedback on numerous issues and implementing them into the game. They'll be proposing solutions to fixing existing issues within the game, and at the same time listening to player feedback on the proposal as well as other ideas. And afterwards, we'll propose a new solution to the community to see if the community better agrees with it. This will be the process for a handful of big issues in the game right now, including enchanting improvements, addressing the Meso economy, Meso sinks, gear trade, and more. I actually really like this idea because they're basically admitting that they need help fixing things, and the game's most active players will be able to provide the useful feedback needed to improve the game. I know RuneScape's developers are actually actively listening to player feedback as well. In fact, I think RuneScape does it better. Before any major changes are implemented into RuneScape, it goes through a player poll through in-game polling booths. If an update doesn't get support from players, it simply doesn't make it into the game. So MapleStory 2 isn't doing it quite directly the way RuneScape is, they're at least listening to their players, and we'll see if that ends up creating a better MapleStory 2. And speaking of MapleStory, MapleStory 1 is getting a big content update on January 23rd when the game's New Beginnings update launches, which will boost the game's level cap from 250 to 275. This is a huge update because 250 has been the level cap in MapleStory for over 5 years now. And with the increased level caps comes a ton of other goodies, including new gear, monsters, quests, items, and more. The game's new Lunar New Year event also begins on January 30th, so you can look forward to that as well. And despite MapleStory's age, it's actually one of the most successful titles in the world after Dungeon Fighter Online on the free-to-play front. MapleStory 1 launched in the West back in 2004, and it's still going strong, and it remains one of my favorite MMORPGs. Up next, Legends of Aria delays its Steam launch until sometime later this spring. The current estimated release date is March 21st, 2019. The game was originally set to launch on Steam in late December, but it was pushed back till after the holidays, and this week it was pushed back once again, this time into the spring. This isn't a huge deal though, because the game is already available on the game's official website, so you can just go there and buy it and begin playing right away. Now, Legends of Aria is a sandbox-inspired MMORPG, similar to classics like RuneScape and Ultima Online, and it is a buy-to-play game as well, so you buy once and play forever. And besides the Steam release being pushed back, the game's dungeon update, which revamps the game's existing dungeons, is also set to launch on January 30th. If you're looking for a different game, Legends of Aria may be worth trying. Perhaps a game the best compared to today would be like Shroud of the Avatar, but with a more Ultima Online-esque feel. Next up, speaking of Steam launches, Lodoss War Online officially launched onto Steam earlier this week. It's a 2D isometric MMORPG and it plays a lot like classical MMOs, so it's a lot of grind. The game launched in South Korea, I think, back in 2015, but made its way over to the West in 2017, so it's not exactly super old. The game isn't exactly a huge hit, but averages only about 50 or so players online on Steam at any given time. So 50 players is not a lot, but it's been off Steam for a while as well. I actually think this one is not bad. It's definitely not going to be your next big MMORPG, but sometimes mindless grind can be a lot of fun, and Lodoss War has quite a bit of that. And now, speaking of games going to Steam, we have another one. Shot Online, the 14-year-old golfing MMO from Games Campus, is launching on Steam tomorrow on January 22nd. Shot Online is actually one of the oldest free-to-play games in the West and has been running for 14 years straight. Games Campus used to be a pretty big publisher of games back in its heyday in 2011, when its service needed like half a dozen games, and over the years has probably operated over a dozen games. But today, Shot Online is the only game they still run. Given that this one has been running for 14 years straight, they must be doing something right. So if you're looking for a free-to-play golfing game, you'll be able to play this one on Steam starting tomorrow. Also on the older game front, Gravity announced they're ending development for Ragnarok Online 2. The announcement was made official on a forum post this last week, and to be honest, no one should be surprised. Ragnarok Online 2 was simply never as popular as the first game and has been stagnating for years, averaging just 37 players online last month on Steam, and in fact, has averaged less than 100 players online over the last 3 years. Unfortunately, the game isn't shutting down right away, and the cash app remains open as well. So there's clearly no path to shut down the game just yet. They just plan on keeping the game servers running with no further development going forward. This one launched back in 2013 and never really saw any success, which is interesting because the first Ragnarok Online was was so incredibly popular. And this announcement kind of comes just a week after they announced Rose Online would be shutting down, so it looks like Gravity is purging their older games. Up next, a big update for Tree of Savior just launched this last week. The game's highly anticipated rebuild update was announced late last year and went live this last week, which revamps the game's class system. Before putting points into different subclasses felt like a waste because many of them became obsolete once you reached later in the game. Since rebuild went live, the game's player base has almost doubled and a daily peak of 4,400 versus the previous 1,900 or so figure. This is likely temporary and will probably decline in the coming weeks. It's still a huge update to the game, and if you haven't played Tree of Savior in a while, now's a great time to give it another go. Next up, we have a small update for the PC version of Tera, which released its Shorehold update, which added the new Shorehold Battleground, as well as 3 new PvP gear types, which can be purchased with Bellicarium credits. The new Shorehold update also adds a new PvE training ground, where level 65s can challenge BAMs to test out new combos in their own solo instance, or just to maximize their DPS since it comes with a DPS meter, which is pretty convenient. Up next, a small update for Closers. In Mass, the game's Western publisher announced that they'll be merging the North American and European versions of the game on January 29th. The reason behind the merger is to ensure the best possible player experience and a healthy in-game economy, which translates into the game's player base has been declining, so they need busier servers. Closers, for those that don't know, is an instance dungeon persistent hub style linear MMORPG similar to Critic Online, Dragon's Nest, Vindictus, and Soulworker, so expect very similar gameplay. Moving right along, next I announced a new mobile MMORPG this week titled Axe, Alliance vs Empire, which they promise delivers a PC and console quality like MMO experience to mobile devices. And while I called it a new game, it's been available in South Korea for some time now already. The real trailer didn't show any gameplay, but fortunately there's a ton of other actual gameplay videos on YouTube. The game offers 75 vs 75 competitive PvP battles, cooperative raids, and most importantly, a massive persistent open world. We'll be launching sometime later this year. In English, we'll have 6 playable classes at launch. They promise a PC and console quality like game, but I have my doubts. I'm expecting another auto-playing MMORPG similar to Lineage 2 Revolution, but who knows, they might surprise us. Next up, a small bit of news for The Division 2, Ubisoft's upcoming shooter with persistent MMO-like elements, will be launching into beta testing on February 7th and will run until February 10th. Anyone who pre-ordered the game will get a chance to check it out then. This is the first time the game will be open to beta testing to pretty much anyone who wants to give it a try, and it is a big title. Next and last news this week comes from Superdata Research, and they released some interesting end-of-year data for the video games industry. To no one's surprise, the video game industry continues to grow, with 2018 being the biggest year in gaming ever. This year's top performers shouldn't surprise anyone either, with Fortnite taking the #1 spot as a top-performing free-to-play game list. And other titles here were largely the same as last year. Interestingly, on the paid PC game front, PUBG took the #1 spot, out-earning a lot of other heavyweight titles. And to no one's surprise, mobile gaming was the #1 platform for gaming, bringing a total of $61.3 billion in digital games revenue in 2018. And there's actually a lot more to talk about in this report, which we'll be talking about tomorrow in the podcast. But anyway, that's it for MMO News today. I'll see you guys tomorrow for the podcast. Later, guys.